Morning. Today we are reviewing our last unit, Unit 10. We will be testing practice tests on Tuesday. Again, I'm going to be at the funeral on Tuesday, so you will have the practice test and answer keys on Wednesday before we take the test. If you had any questions about how I got any answers that I got on the answer key, then we will talk about that before I pass the test out. So if you have questions, we will do that before the test, but the actual test will be Wednesday of next week. It is just 4 objectives, so hopefully it is not too overwhelming for us. You should have your index card for a help sheet to make sure that you have the correct formulas for what you need for the test. So let's look at CO72. We're talking about those possible outcomes. So what do you think we should put on our help sheet for possible outcomes? Ava?
What is the definition of possible outcomes?
I think we should put the definition. That's good because sometimes on our tests they ask for definitions of things. So let's put our definition. Possible outcomes is the list. Hopefully it's going to pop up on me. Oh, I love using the smartboard for the first time of the day. Will it pop up? It is the list of all the resulting possibilities from an event. I don't know why it is not popping up. Let's see, is it writing on my other screen now? It is not popping up, so that just makes it so fun for us. All right, so what you should write is that definition, a list of all the resulting possibilities from an event. Write down the definition because we know there are plenty of tests that have definitions that we need to put. The other important thing, you could do that probability tree. This is what most of us liked to do when we did our homework. So on your paper, you cannot write the actual example. I would put event 1, event 2, event 3. I would put outcomes, and then I would put like a variable, like O for the outcome, times O for the outcome, times O equals, right? So you can't do an example, but that's kind of like the formula. So my friends that are not writing it down, it's going to hurt you on the test next week. So what I was saying was you want to do something like, since my board isn't working, I'm just going to write on here. I would put event 1, event 2. I would put, I don't have room. If you have room, put event 3. So you know there could be more than one. I would put outcomes here. O times O times O if you have more events. So if you have event 3. Okay, so you know that you write down the outcomes for each individual event and multiply them together. Melanie.
On the test, are we going to be able to choose which one we want to do, like the tree or
Most definitely. If you are comfortable doing the probability tree and you want to do that, you sure can. You're going to get the same answer. So if you list all of your outcomes, because that's easier for you, totally fine. If doing the counting principle, you want to do it that way, that's fine too. You're going to get the same answer. I do want to see how you are doing it. So if you know that there are 5 shirts, 3 pants, and 2 shoes, and you need to multiply them together, write it out. 5 times 4 times 2, or whatever the numbers are. So I know how you're getting your answer. Okay? Any other questions about this objective? So big things to have is your definition, and whichever one you're more comfortable doing, the probability tree or the counting principle, making sure you put something on there. So if you're doing the probability tree, you would want event 1, event 2, event 3. Okay, so you have to look at each event. What are the outcomes? Kelly, can you put the stars away, please? Thank you. All right. See, PO 73, it is a PO. We do have to pass this. There are a few of us that have power objectives from the last test that we have to pass. Remember, if you have a power objective not passed, you have to come in the summer and take a tutoring class with Mr. Schultz to pass it in order to move on. So we have to make sure all power objectives are passed. Okay. Next Friday, we will not have a retakes day in class because it is track and field day. So I am after school Wednesday and Thursday next week. So if you don't get power objectives done today, stay after Wednesday or Thursday next week so we can get those done. All right, so probability, you're going to want to know the definition. The likelihood of an event happening, that's the definition. If it asks you for the formula, you're going to want to put what the formula is. So put definition and then put formula. So the formula is what you want to happen over what could happen. In my head, this one makes more sense. Desired outcomes over possible outcomes. We want to remember that that bottom number is always the total outcomes. So that total number, how many outcomes are there altogether, goes on the bottom, and your desired, what you want, goes on top. So what you want to happen over the total possible outcomes. Any questions on this one? Remember, we always have our steps. So you could put something to remind you of your steps. You could say fraction, divide for decimal. Your final answer should be as a percentage. So that final answer should be a percent. So find your fraction, divide it down, top divided by bottom. You get a decimal, round your decimal to what place? 100th place. So you have to round correctly. We look at that thousandths place, we look, is it 5 or higher? It rounds up. 4 or less, it stays the same. We go down to stay the same. So if it's 0.155 and you put 15%, it will be wrong. You have to round that 100th place up. So you have to have the exact percentage. Any questions on this one? Yep. Connor.
You can put like percentages on the line, right? Like
I don't know what you mean.
Yeah.
Oh, up here?
Yeah.
Yes, you can put that. That is not an example. So what you really need to know, if it asks the question, is it not likely or likely? If it's less than 50%, the closer you get to 0, the less likely it is. Not likely. Over 50%, the closer to 100, the more likely it is to happen. You can definitely put that on the help sheet. Not an example, it's a scale. Okay, Marina?
Yeah.
Okay. Next objective. CO 74. I can calculate the probability of compound events. So remember those single events, it was, I've got one event, this is how I find my probability. What I want on top, total possible on bottom, and then I divided down to get my decimal and percent. So compound means there are 2 or more events occurring. So this is the big thing we need to remember. Find the probability of each event. So you have to figure out how many events are there. Event 1, event 2, event 3. So list your events, find that fraction probability for each event, and then multiply your tops together, multiply your bottoms together, and then you find your decimal and your percentage. So I would put on my help sheet, I would put event 1, event 2, event 3, just in case we have more. And then I would put probability. You could say desired over total times desired over total times desired over total. Multiply across, multiply across. And then you do your same thing of finding your decimal and finding the percentage. So there's multiple steps to this one. So you find each individual event's outcome, and then we multiply across. Then we do the decimal, dividing for the decimal and percent. So you understand why I picked D and T? You can put any variable there. I put D for the desired outcomes over T for the total outcomes. So each event is your desired over the total. This one coming back, we remembering how to do this one? Okay. I'm telling you right now, on Tuesday, you're going to look at your help sheet. If you don't look at it over the long weekend at all, on Tuesday you'll go, oh my goodness, how do I do this again? That's why we're not doing the actual test on Tuesday. Okay, because long weekends are hard to come back from. So don't be freaked out with the practice test if when you first look at it, you go, I don't remember this. I do want you to have all this stuff on your help sheet. So then if you do remember it, that is awesome. If there's somewhere you go, what did all of this mean again? When you see the answer key, it's going to help it bring it all back. So it'll be easier to take that test on Wednesday. You will want to have some time to go over this Tuesday evening, to go over that practice test and make sure it all makes sense. Any questions on CO74? We've got one more, CO75. This is our theoretical probability and experimental probability. You will want to write those definitions out. Theoretical probability is what should happen. Yes, Connor.
Question one is the test going to be like shorter?
It's 4 objectives and M6 are 9. So there will be 5 sections, so it will be shorter.
And Tuesday we're doing the silent cheer thing.
So we're not doing silent cheers the entire day. We did not get 6 hours. So the way Tuesday is going to work is you will do the outdoor time first thing in the morning before it gets too hot outside. So before and after specialists during social studies science times, we will do outdoor time. Then we will come in and we will do some purple green groups. So we can get 45 minutes of purple and then 45 minutes. Sorry, you're the purple group. 45 minutes of math and then 45 minutes of ELA. Then we'll go out we'll have lunch and lunch recess. And then in the afternoon, we'll be inside doing like board games and movie time. So we will still have silent cheers on Tuesday. You are correct, but we have a little bit of learning time to do practice tests. Any questions about that? Anybody else? Okay, and I think Mrs. Gregory has been going through with people on different stuff. She'll probably talk about it in ELA time some more. Yeah, we do have a sign-up sheet for snacks. So if you want snacks during the movie board game time, we need parents to sign up to bring something on Tuesday. All right, so for CO75, definitely write down the 2 definitions. Theoretical probability is what should happen. Experimental probability is what actually happens. Rolling that dice, I should roll a 5. If I roll 6 times, I should roll that 5 1 out of 6 times each time. In all reality, that Doesn't always happen that way, right? I flip my coin, I'm not going to get even heads and even tails. Sometimes we luck out, not always. So we have to be careful what's theoretical versus experimental. So what should happen versus what actually happens when we do the experiment. What big law do we remember between what you did individually with the coin flips and the dice versus adding it all together as a class? What did we talk about? What law was that? The law of large numbers. You will want to write this definition on your help sheet. Law of large numbers. The more times you do something, the closer your experimental probability gets to the theoretical probability. So remember, doing it yourself, rolling that die 120 times, we were farther away from that theoretical probability. When we added the whole classes up, we got closer to that theoretical probability. So the more times you do something, the closer you will get to the theoretical probability. So when you go to the casino, always comes up. Sometimes we get really lucky. We flip that coin toss and we get, ooh, we've gotten heads 10 times and I win every time I flip heads. The more times you flip that coin, the closer to that 50-50 you're going to get. Who knows how casinos are set up? Is the probability in favor of the casino or the customer? The casino. So if you go in and you get lucky and you win, and you're like, oh, I'm going to keep playing, I'm on a winning streak, the more times you play, what's going to happen? The more you're going to lose. So always think about that with casinos. It's supposed to favor the casino. So if you get lucky, take your winnings and run and say, whoo, I got lucky, I won big. I'm going to stop playing. Because the more times you play theoretical or the law of large numbers, the more times you play, the closer to losing you're going to get. Any questions on this last one? Okay, so we are going to use the rest of class time for practice work and retakes. Ruby?
Do you know what the episodes are for you? Like review question, like what POs or COs, everything?
You can find that at the beginning of your book. So Ruby had a really good point, friends. Remember, at the beginning of our binders, we have the Math 6 Review 9. So, oh, it doesn't have it listed. I thought they usually had it listed. I'm sorry. Let's look and see. Math 6 Review 9 will be on. I ran off the practice tests. Let me find them. Oh, that's all the same pile. My pile fell off of my chair, so let me just separate out two here. This is Math 6. So, you will need to know, so familiarize PO 66, 68, 69, and 70. Oh, they are all from our last chapter, our last unit. 66, 68, 69, and 70. So they are a lot closer to what we have just done. So thankfully we don't have to look at binder 1 or 2. They are all from the last unit. Good question, Ruby. So if you are watching this at home, make sure you have all your POs you have passed. If you had any past due POs or a PO from the last test, we have to get those done because you have to have all POs passed to go on to pre-algebra next year. So if you're watching at home, if you have any questions, please make sure you come see me. I hope you have a wonderful day and I hope to see you soon.